¿Qué pasa, YouTube? What's up? How's it going, everybody? Have for y'all today a proper Wi-Fi battle with an actual narration. If you guys may have missed my previous Wi-Fi battle, then I kind of just went over what was going on, and if you just watch like the first 4 minutes of that, then you'll be updated to everything that's happening. But hopefully we should be back to regular schedule. I will not have another Wi-Fi battle up over the weekend, but it will be draft league stuff. So for those of you who do enjoy that, then awesome. We'll be back to regular Wi-Fi's hopefully on Monday. But this match was against Gualgus. I feel like I really butchered that name, but I am using one of the newest additions to the RU tier because my boy Tortuga did not get any love in the UU tier. Mega Blastoise has dropped down to RU, and I really wanted to use it, so I threw this team together, which is actually pretty solid. However, though, one humongous threat is one of the S rank Pokemon in the RU tier, and that is Salazzle. I guess the good thing about Salazzle is that it can't really get too free of a switch-in against anything that I have, which is really good because that prevents how threatening it can actually be, just because of how frail Salazzle is. So if I can keep up offensive momentum or pull some appropriate doubles if I expect Salazzle to come in, then I should be able to hopefully keep it at bay. Then Scarf Shaman could also be a little bit scary late game if I lose my Doublade or my Rotom gets too weakened. And Doublade is really not useful to me in this game, so I Volt Switch turn 1 as he brought in the Florges, I believe, and then I bring in Nidoqueen, get up my rocks as he brings in the Pangoro. Very positive he's going to want to go for the knockoff here. He could have potentially gone for the Drain Punch, and I think I still might have been able to live because of Fluffy. Like, Beware's ability is really awesome, just lets it tank physical hits very well. And this is going to allow me to safely go for the superpower here. And the thing about this match is that if I'm able to get rid of the Steelix, then he legitimately has no switch-ins to Beware. So even though I did lose my Choice Band, as you can see, that superpower still did some respectable damage, which means Return should be doing a really good chunk of damage if I catch the Florges on the switch-in. So that's going to be really great. So this turn I expect him to want to go for the Synthesis, because if he loses his Florges, then that means my Blastoise just comes in for free, and I click any specially offensive move and things are going to start dropping. So I do expect him to want to go for the Synthesis as I hard switch directly into my Nidoqueen. I'm going to make a middle ground play here and go for the Ice Beam because I didn't want to possibly risk him not only trying to switch in the Steelix here, but he might have tried to switch into the Rotom or potentially the Salazzle if he really wanted to go down that route. And I am a timid max special attack with Sheer Force and Life Orb, so Ice Beam was going to be doing good damage to whatever came in, and then I could find out exactly what set his Rotom was carrying. As he does bring in the Steelix here, I'm going to go straight for the Earth Power, being able to clean knock that out. There was absolutely no chance that I don't care how bulky Steelix is, this is a Nidoqueen, and she is a monster in the RU tier for a reason. So down it goes, in comes the Rotom. I don't want to take a potential like Specs Overheat or an Inferno Overdrive, so I'm going to switch directly into my own Rotom, which I play a little bit bad around his Rotom Heat. It actually ends up being a bit more of a nuisance than I had originally expected because this thing is bulky with leftovers, and that is actually going to be a little bit problematic because I don't exactly have too many safe switch-ins to the dual stab of this Rotom, so it can just really take advantage of that. So I try to Volt Switch into my Nidoqueen in hopes that he would go for the Volt Switch, but he actually ends up going for the Will-O-Wisp, which is a very solid play on his part. He's now going to be able to start getting chip damage off on my Nidoqueen, which is going to be very helpful to his Salazzle and to his Shaman as well as the Pangoro, because Nidoqueen is deceptively bulky, man. Like, you can just run max special attack, max speed, and Nidoqueen will just about always tank any one move, and it's kind of insane, honestly. Like, I absolutely love Nidoqueen, definitely one of my favorite Draft League Pokemon in general. Definitely recommend you guys use it if you ever have the chance to in Draft League. So He ends up going for the overheat again, although he was at -2, so it doesn't really do anything to me, as I then go for the Thunderbolt, just try and get off a little bit of chip damage on him. I guess in hindsight, what I could have done was gone straight for my Inferno Overdrive, and then that way I would have been able to knock him out. But he Volt Switches into the Shaman. I really don't want to risk him being potentially Life Orb, because I am offensive Rotom. I'm not going to comfortably live any hit he wants to go for, so I'm going to make a safe switch here into my Doublade. Even if he did want to predict this and go for the Earth Power, Doublade is realistically not doing too much in this game. He's got Rotom, he's got Pangoro, and he's got Salazzle, all three of which can just beat down and get rid of my Doublade. Even though, yes, Mega Steelix is gone, he's half of his team still deals with the Blade. So I just go for the Sacred Sword here, just kind of as a middle ground play, trying to get off damage on whatever came in here, as it turns out that I will actually be able to 2-hit KO this Rotom after Rocks and Sacred Sword damage, which is excellent because now this giant nuisance is gone, and this puts me in a little bit of a better scenario, as in comes the Pangoro here. I am expecting him to just want to go straight for the knockoff or potentially go for the Drain Punch, predicting my Beware to come in. I completely forgot about the fact that Pangoro even learned Parting Shot. Honestly, I can't remember the last time I've seen a Pangoro go for Parting Shot, but it's not a bad play at all because he can more or less freely bring in his Florges here, because I'm at -1, so even if I did go for the Iron Head there or the Gyro Ball, I wouldn't have done essentially too much damage to him. So I'm going to take this chance to try and go for the Swords Dance on the off chance that he did want to switch out or pull a double switch, expecting me to go straight for the Iron Head, but he goes for the Defog, and because of Ultra Sun and Moon, Florges does get access to Defog, so he's able to get rid of my rocks, which is a little bit annoying. But if I can bring in my Nidoqueen against his Florges again, I should be able to get my rocks up. Thankfully, Nidoqueen does usually beat Florges 1v1, so I will hopefully be able to try and get up my rocks again to chip down his team, as in comes the Pangoro here on the +1 Iron Head. This actually did a respectable amount of damage, and because the Blade at +1 is actually somewhat of an issue for him to deal with, I'm going to predict him to go for the knockoff again, and I'm going to try to bring in my Beware. Even if he did want to go for the Drain Punch, I might have been able to live one, but if he did knock me out, I would much rather lose my Beware than lose my Doublade at this point, because the Blade, I realize, can be a pivot switch into this Florges, and I can SD against it and just kind of break down his team a little bit for my Blastoise in the back to come in and spam its offensive moves, or my Shaman could late game clean up. So I really didn't care risking my Beware here on the off chance that he did Drain Punch, and I will be able to 2-hit KO the Florges on the switch in here, which is kind of insane, man. Physically defensive Florges does have some pretty good bulk, but the fact that I was able to 2-hit KO him without the Choice Band is super nice, as in comes the Salazzle. Unfortunately, don't have a switch into this monster, so I do have to sack off my Beware here, and it is a awesome nickname in my opinion on Beware. So I will be able to bring in my boy Tortuga, the Mega Blastoise. Shouts out to all my UCL Season 2 people out there, and I will just go ahead and Mega Evolve and go straight for the Dark Pulse. There was no one move the Salazzle had that should have been able to knock me out, even if he did go for the Acidic Downpour, I think is what it's called, the Poison type Z move. I can actually live one, but I couldn't live a Z move followed up by a Sludge Wave or vice versa. So I knew I could tank one, Dark Pulse, get off a good amount of damage, and then go from there. But he's actually going to decide to sack off the Pangoro here, which is excellent because now this is now one less issue that I have to worry about, as in comes the Shaman here. Now, while I can maybe live a Seed Flare on a damage roll, I don't want to risk that, because if anything, I want to try to keep my Blastoise as healthy as possible. So I'm going to switch into my Doublade here. In hindsight, this might have been a bit of a misplay on my part. I think I really should have switched into Rotom instead. That way I could have got a free switch back into my Doublade here. Although I guess maybe this wasn't too bad in the long run of the battle, because I do get off some decent little damage on the Salazzle, and then I will be able to go for the Shadow Sneak the following turn, putting this thing very, very low enough to the point where anything from my offensive mons left should be able to knock him out. So he's going to be able to finish off my Doublade here. This is fine because I can just bring back in my Blastoise, and much like earlier, I can just safely go for the Dark Pulse. Fortunately, did not have the Ice Beam, and well, if I did have Ice Beam, I still might have not risked going for it, because I'm not sure if I actually would have been able to knock out the Salazzle. But Dark Pulse regardless is a nice middle ground and just safe play in general, because as you can see, I still get off some decent little chip damage on the Shaman, and now it's in range of where my Nidoqueen will be able to knock it out. And this is another questionable play on my part. I think what I should have done was actually sacked off my Nidoqueen, but I thought that he would maybe try to go for the Earth Power, expecting me to bring in Nidoqueen, and then that way I could try to get a free switch into my Rotom Heat. But it's not too bad in the long run, because again, Nidoqueen is so bulky. Even after this little bit of burn, I can comfortably live one Seed Flare unless he gets a crit, or unless he was Choice Specs, which thankfully I don't think Choice Spec Shaman is even a set in RU. If it is, it's one that I've not seen before. Typically Scarf or Subseed is what I've mainly ran into, and I'm able to chew the hit and in return knock him out with the Sludge Wave. At this point, his last mon is going to be this Salazzle, which with my Blastoise in the back, I can still tank one hit, and then I also have my Scarf Shaman with Psychic. So unless for some reason he is running a Scarf Salazzle and is able to outspeed my Shaman, or if he like gets a super duper huge crit on my Blast, actually I don't even think a crit Sludge Wave would have knocked me out at this point if he was like modest Scarfed, I suppose. I mean, Scarf Salazzle is not, again, something I ever really see, so I didn't fear him being potentially Scarfed, but he is gonna try to go for the Z move here. This is why Mega Blastoise is so awesome. Thanks to the HP investment, I do 100% always live in a Acidic Downpour unless he does crit me, which I do still have Shaman in the back, and it is now confirmed that he is not Scarfed, so I would have been able to bring in Shaman and knock him out with the Psychic, and that is going to be the 2-0 victory in my favor. And the funny thing is that Shaman could have actually potentially beat the rest of my team once the Blade and Rotom Heat got weakened, because if he had won a speed tie against my Shaman, I think if he had won 2 speed ties against my Shaman, he would have been able to knock me out, and then I don't think Blastoise lived one unless I got the roll in my favor. So yeah, at that point Shaman realistically could have won him the battle there, so not entirely too surprised that this did just come down to a 2-0 because of how scary Shaman and Salazzle really were. But yeah, hopefully you guys did enjoy the battle. Make sure to hit that like button down below if you guys want to support the channel. Answer the common question of the day as well. With that being said, I'll see y'all on Monday with a regular Wi-Fi battle, and then this weekend is going to be Draft League stuff, of course. So thank you all for watching. Later, everybody.
No matter where you're at, I'm not here to make friends, it's time to attack and deplete your HP with a final smash. Don't make me turn around and pull a 6-foot hacks. 6 foot hacks. Yeah. 6 foot hacks. Yeah. 6 foot hacks.